It just seems like they seem like a team of destiny where it's like every time they seem like they're going to lose, because it's those late games, I would go to bed, Kings would be up 3-1 or Knights would be up 4-1. I'd be like, nice. I can wake up, go to work. I wake up in the morning, oh, McDavid scored in overtime, or whoever, like Kasperi Kapanen got the game winner, the series winner. It's like, if that guy's scoring your overtime winners, then yeah, we're cooked as Flames fans.
Jack Hansen gets pumped hard by you-know-who, Kachuk.
McDavid scores! Game winner! Series winner!
Oh, they scored! Oh, Steve Smith in attempting to get it out of his own zone, put it in the net!
And Talbot and Mike Smith, they're going to go at center ice. This is the Battle of Alberta we've been waiting for 3 decades!
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Fuel and Fire podcast. As always, I'm your host, Josh, from the Win Column, with our recurring guest, Greg, here. And we've also got a couple new faces, or one new face, in James Johnson from the Win Column, and then Simon has been here before from the Win Column as well. So a large Flames contingent, understandably so, as they're, front and center in the media right now. Long playoff run, deep into the finals right now. So one of the hot topics across the NHL. But no, once again, this summer has been quite a painful one in Calgary. As we all know, back-to-back finals between the Oilers and the Panthers, probably the two teams every Flames fan doesn't want to see in the finals. So that's nice to see two years in a row. So I know James has a few thoughts on the direction of the team. So I'll pass it to him and let him take this away here.
Yeah, it's been, well, first off, thanks for having me on. Obviously, it's fun to join y'all for the first time, but yeah, it's been irritating to say the least to watch this happen again. We were all, I think, except for Alex, I think everybody in the entire TWC was cheering for Toronto because it would have benefited us with the first round pick, and Kachuk and Bennett wouldn't have gone far again. But alas, they go to the final for the third time in a row, and the Flames have still not selected with the first round pick in the Kachuk trade. So like about as great as you can get for the Flames, your biggest rival, and then the team that you basically helped build up with all of your high draft picks. Yeah, it's a dark time. I respect people that can be positive about the team right now, that like get out of bed and they're like, Flames, there's some good stuff going on, because I simply can't. I can't be bothered.
And life's about the journey, not the destination, right?
I'm just thinking about the prospects. We don't talk about the team right now. Let's think about the team 2 years from now.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and I think we've only had like one news story, which was Coronado, I don't know, like 3 weeks ago, and then like an assistant coach leaving, and that's the only newsworthy things going on with this team over the last month and a half. And then you see, obviously, the oil rig side, they're just celebrating and all happy and playing Pink Pony Club, which is still a ridiculous choice for Edmonton, but I love it. It's just doesn't make sense for the Oilers. But anyway, yeah, it's just they're having the time of their life in the whatever they call it, the moss pit, and then like, I don't think I've seen more Dallas jerseys than I've seen Flames jerseys downtown the last few months. Like, it's ridiculous.
It's definitely, I would say, top 3 worst eras of Flames hockey, and there's a lot of bad ones. You think about the early 2000s teams, those 90s teams, like the Young Guns era. But this has to be top 3. Like, you have that crazy season in 21-22, one of the best seasons this organization's seen ever, which is kind of sad to say because they literally lost in 5 in the second round. And then you watch your 2 best players walk away or refuse to sign. And then the guy you trade to Florida makes the Cup Finals 3 years in a row, wins the Stanley Cup, nominated for the Hart Trophy, widely considered like one of the 5 best pure playoff players in the league. Sam Bennett just does Sam Bennett things in the playoffs. I think he's leading the playoffs in goals right now. And then, yeah, like you said, on top of that, if that wasn't enough, the Oilers go to back-to-back finals and like finally break through that wall that they struggled to since drafting McDavid, and legitimately look like, yeah, like every year they look like, once playoff time comes, the legitimate cup contender. And it's like this year especially, I think when the Kings went up 2-0, I was like, man, maybe the Flames fans finally get a win. We finally get a win. And then the Oilers just reel off 4 straight wins and then destroy the Knights, destroy the Stars. And honestly, at this point, I as much as it pains me to say, I feel like I I would almost pick them against Florida. It just seems like that they seem like a team of destiny where it's like every time they seem like they're going to lose, because it's those late games, I would go to bed, Kings would be up 3-1 or Knights would be up 4-1. I'd be like, nice. I can wake up, go to work. I wake up in the morning, oh, McDavid scored in overtime, or whoever, like Kasperi Kapanen got the game winner, the series winner. It's like, if that guy's scoring your overtime winners, then yeah, we're cooked as Flames fans. Like there's not much else to say. Like we're sitting over here reliving a cup run from 21 years ago, talking about who we're going to pick 18th overall when we just finished 29th in the league in goals. And it's just so hard. Like you said, like I've been a Flames fan. Like I kind of jumped on the bandwagon as like a young kid in the 04 run. So like exactly like 20-ish years, like the whole salary cap era has kind of been my fandom. I would say this is the lowest point of hope I've ever had as a Flames fan. During those early years, at least you had a Ginla. You had a legitimate like superstar player. You could like, maybe we can replicate 04 with a Ginla and Kiprusoff. Then you had the Gaudreau era and Tkachuk and Monahan. You had some elite players. You kind of like, maybe we can replicate 18-19, or, you know, they went on that run in 14-15. And now it's just like this past season, it just sucked any hope out of I'm sure you can all agree. Like just, I thought they finally kind of started to rebuild last summer. They trade Markstrom, trade Mangiapane. They pick Zane Parekh, who looks like a stud. And I'm like, okay, this year, if we like land like a Michael Misa or like a Hagens or like any of those top, like a Schaefer, I'm like, we're actually like on a pretty good path here. And then they completely blow it. They finish 16th, give the pick to Montreal from the Monahan trade. They don't even get a pick 16th. And now our highest pick is 18th. And it's like, now it just seems like the entire organization is once again shifted to, oh, we're done rebuilding. We're actually a playoff team now. And I feel like next season, like I can't see any way they're actually in the race for McKenna. It just doesn't seem plausible. I think one, because of Dustin Wolf, and two, because this organization won't let it happen. I think they're going to look to add in the offseason, and I'm sure we'll touch on free agency in a bit, but like any hope of anything, like I just look at this roster, I'm like, our centers are Nazem Kadri, Michael Backlund, like Morgan Frost and Rory Cairns. And then we literally have no prospect centers. It's like, it's just so hard to have any hope. I'm like, well, maybe by 2030 we'll rebuild, I guess. I'm just like essentially admitting defeat, and like I guess we're just gonna fight for the wild card for the next couple of years. At least we'll be mid in a shiny new arena, so there's that. We won't be playing at a dump of an arena anymore. At least we'll have fancy training facilities for our mid roster, so that's good. But like, yeah, I don't want to steal all the airspace, but man, it's like it's very hard to find any reason to be hopeful. It just kind of feels like, oh man, here we go again. We're just going to be fighting in this wild card spot for like 2, 3, 4 years, and then maybe by then, when like the Hubertos and the Uyghurs and the Kadris and the Colemans are all kind of phased out and completely washed, maybe then we can actually rebuild. But yeah, I just have absolutely zero hope, and it's painful right now.
This episode of the Fuel and Fire podcast is proudly sponsored by Ollie Remthula, your go-to realtor in Calgary. Ollie is an award-winning industry leader who makes buying and selling real estate a seamless experience. No matter what your real estate needs are, Ollie's full support will make you feel at home while finding your home. Contact Ollie Remthula today at 403-477-2280 or ollie.remtula@gmail.com and make your real estate dreams a reality.
Yeah, and to kind of add on to that, I think this past season for me was the first year that if there was a Flames game on and I had something else going on, I probably chose that something else. Like, usually in previous years, I'd be like, oh, okay, the Flames are playing at 7. Like, I will not schedule anything else. Like, I'm watching that game. And then this past year, after about game 6, I was kind of like, okay, this is not interesting to me. And I don't know if that's just me and my personal life. I know my friends and kind of people I work with downtown, like that's kind of the vibe that I've got. Even attendance, like the Flames were bottom 5 in average attendance this year, or I think they were 5th in average attendance. Like, I think people are starting to lose a little bit of interest, given that's kind of the third year in a row now where they've been around 16th overall. Obviously, the 2023-24, they kind of fell off after they traded Tanev and Hanifin, but that's like the third straight year where they've kind of been in the mix. is there a direction? I'm not sure. So I don't know if you guys also see that from your friends and family, or if that's just kind of me and my grumpy circle. I'm not sure.
I can say for me, I'm a massive goalie guy. I love watching good goaltenders. So for me, I was watching for Dustin Wolf. But a lot of the games where it was Vladar starting, I was a little bit more flaky on those ones, I can say. So I don't know. I think this year, for me as a fan, I can say that I was tuning in. I don't know. I probably watched a good 50, 60 games, but I don't know. I'm with you as well. Like it's tough. It was a tough year to watch. It was just because it was weird. It was weird because there was just not a lot of direction. And it's tough whenever that's the situation, right? Because you don't really, when you know at the end of the day you're just going to land in 16th again, it's tough to watch because it just feels like a wasted year.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly that. It feels like a wasted year. Like when you're during the pre-Gaudreau Monahan era where they were actually like tanking, or not intentionally tanking, they were just terrible. But at least you kind of see the vision. You're like, okay, we're going to get a top 10 pick. You know, they got Monahan, they got Bennett, they got Kachuk. Like there's sort of a vision and a path forward where you can see like, okay, like this actually could get better, you know, eventually. And it did for, you know, a couple seasons at least until everyone left. But now it's like when you're just 3 straight years of kind of floating in the middle. I know last year they ended up 9th last and like finally got an elite prospect, but still, like James said, they were kind of up until like April, they were kind of right in that mushy middle until they eventually kind of lost a few in a row and fell off. But yeah, when you're kind of just fighting for a wild card spot, you also have a, you know, I would say average prospect pool, not terrible, but probably middle of the league-ish. Your roster doesn't have a single first line forward. It's just kind of hard to like not think of it as a wasted year and just think, how is this not going to be the exact same next year? Like I just don't see, unless every single big free agent suddenly wants to sign in Calgary and the Flames blow up their cap situation, like, which is scarily a possibility according to what we've heard from Pat Steinberg. But it's hard not to see how this team doesn't just kind of do the same thing next year and just kind of float around. Like they're not going to be in the McKenna race, but they're probably not going to be in the playoff race. And if they are, it's going to be for wild card 2. And then they're just going to get steamrolled by Edmonton or Vegas or Dallas in the first round. Like it's just hard to see when you're not picking high and you're not making the playoffs consistently. You're in no man's land, which is, well, that's where the Flames' bread and butter is. So it kind of seems like they're exactly where they belong, but unfortunately not fun as a fan.
That's probably the only reason I don't hate the idea of them going after someone in free agency is just the fact that at least then that's a direction. That means we're aiming for a wild card spot, right? At least like this year, it just felt weird in the sense that you couldn't really tell which way the team wanted to go. Craig Conroy was saying one thing, the record was saying another. It was just tough to watch. I think at least if they go sign some big free agents and the team at least looks like a wild card team, that's at least something, maybe. I don't know. That's just how I feel on it. That's the only reason that I'm not firmly on Team Tank. I'm not firmly on Team Tank because at this point it doesn't look like there is a tank.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I'm almost on the same path. Like I'm so hopeless. I'm like, whatever. Let's just like go pay Sam Bennett an insane amount of money and a massive overpay because like who cares? We're going down with the ship anyways. May as well go out with a bang and like just do some crazy stuff and like rebuild in a few years when he's making 10 million and scoring 20 points. Like at this point, I just don't see. You're so eternally mid. Like I don't see how you possibly add elite talent at this point. It's through trades, which like what Jack Eichel is the only probably elite one center in the past since Joe Thornton, like the past 20 years that was on the trade market. Maybe Tyler Seguin, but he was kind of still young. Like free agency, no elite number 1 center. Either one is hitting free agency or 2 deciding to come to Calgary. Maybe the new arena helps with that a bit, but like again, that they're not coming to Calgary. Like when you've got free range of the market, so the best option is drafting, which this team does not like they're going to be set up for a top 10 pick or specifically a top 5 pick is where you get those like truly elite talents, and so it's just very hard to envision how they're going to get the talent needed to actually do some damage and become a contender, and that's where it's just hard to see a future. I'm like, who cares at this point? Let's just throw $1 billion at freaking whoever and let's just blow it up and go out with a bang, and then we'll just rebuild in a couple of years. At least it'll be a little more exciting than watching a Ryan Huska coach team with Ryan Lumberg and Kevin Rooney playing 16 minutes a night or whatever. So yeah, it's very difficult when it's the organization, and I'm sure James will touch on this for sure a lot, but the whole culture aspect of it, I know that's been a big talking point, not just from the organization, but a section of the fan base who really values that culture. And like, to a degree, I understand you can't, like, you kind of look at Chicago and it's like they have no culture. Connor Bedard probably hates his life right now. Like, they're just terrible. He's way underutilized because his wingers are like Ryan Donato and Tyler Bertuzzi. Like, they really went that full down to the studs, which I get can hurt your culture, but let's not act like the Flames have a winning culture. They're literally the biggest losers of the salary cap era. So, like, you can only tout your culture as a reason why you're making progression for so long. Like, it's good to have a good culture, but you're not going to win because you have a good culture. You're going to win because you're the Florida Panthers and your lineup is ridiculously stacked, and you have the good culture set by guys like Kachuk and Paul Maurice and Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand, like, just proven winners who can bring their team into the fight. That's the culture you want, not the culture of, oh, the coach lets us put on music in the game after we just lost 7-1 or whatever it was. Like, that's what the culture feels like in Calgary. It feels like a
country club.
Yeah, exactly. Craig Conroy's country club. Like, I think we touched on this on the last pod. I don't know. I got my thoughts mixed up on, but he mentioned something after the deadline about how no one wanted to be traded, so there wasn't really a move to be made. And that quote alone, like, that's just insane.
Does any player want to be traded?
Exactly. Like, there's been a few in Calgary who wanted to, and he traded them, but you're the general manager. You're supposed to make moves to improve your team, not make moves because a guy tells you, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, those are the givens. Like, you have to trade those players, but it's the decisions that are hard that build a contender. I don't think Jonathan Huberdeau was too pleased when Bill Zito called him up and told him he was shipping him to Calgary after they just won the President's Trophy, but they've now made the Cup Final 3 straight years because of that hard move. So it's, you look at Tampa Bay, Vegas has a reputation of being super, super hard on their players and, having no loyalty. All the best teams do that. Colorado, like with the Rantanen deal, maybe it was a mistake, maybe not, but like, they saw the player wasn't going to sign for the money they wanted. They said, all right, we'll ship you out. They got a really good asset in Martin Necas back, and they just made that tough call. Maybe it didn't work out this year, but it's those type of decisions you need to make to, actually be a contender. And if you're just kind of letting the inmates run the asylum and telling Kevin Rooney, here's a blank check if you want to come back, whatever. Like, that's not how you're going to build a winning team. And that's kind of what they're doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Culture to me has kind of become a bit of a trigger word over the past few months. Like, every single interview with Huska or Conroy or I don't know, like Maloney, if he got interviewed, like every single time they reference, oh, we fixed the culture, guys are happy to be here. It's all rainbows and unicorns and everything is beautiful. Everybody goes to the rink with a smile. We flew a private jet out to get Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost. We showed them that we really value them, and they combined for like 15 points after they got here. Like, culture just, again, I'm not trying to say like it's just like a normal workplace. Like, you don't want to show up to work and have your boss show up and yell, hey, get these 8 tasks done to me by middle of day, and then I'm going to assign you another 8 tasks. And you get one pizza party a year and you're going to hate your life. Like, you don't want to run your organization like that. But also, you don't want it the opposite way as well, where, okay, we're going to have a pizza party every single day and no work's going to get done. And the shareholders are going to be really upset, and then we're going to have to start firing people. And obviously, that's a very crude example, but I'm just kind of sick about hearing about culture because they finished exactly where they did previously. And to give them credit, they did overachieve to where I had them pegged, and I think 99% of people had them pegged.
Definitely.
And that's a huge props to them. They did kind of surprise people, but still, I don't know what you're teaching Dustin Wolf and Matt Coronado, and like it's okay to try your hardest and still finish 16th overall, where you see playoff teams are starting to not really care about the regular season. Like, I don't know where Edmonton and Florida finished. I think like 10th and 12th or something like that. Carolina was like 8th. You have teams that have just started to kind of rest guys in the last couple months because they've realized that the regular season doesn't matter. Home ice advantage doesn't really matter anymore. As long if you have a good team, you can just kind of take a break in the regular season. And you see teams like Winnipeg and Washington that give it their all the entire year and then they come up short. Dallas kind of came on strong at the end of the season, like the last 2 months, and then you saw them show up against Edmonton. They just got floored, just got destroyed. That's a whole other topic of teams I kind of retooled versus teams that rebuilt, but I won't really dive into that just yet. But I'm kind of, culture's not a bad thing to have, but if that's all you're focusing on, like you said, you have Vegas, you have Tampa, you have Florida, who kind of ruined Huberdeau's career, but did they really care? Like, they won a cup and they went to the finals in 2 years. Like, I know Uyghur too. Like, that was a guy that Florida fans kind of picked on because he made some mistakes in the playoffs, and I love Mackenzie Uyghur and I'm glad he's a Flame, but I mean, for their perspective, I'm sure it sucks that they're watching Florida go to the finals for 3 years in a row, but from Florida's perspective, they don't care. Like Colorado, they finished with 48 points in 2017. They won a cup 5 years later. Like, do you think the culture was so miserable and pathetic that they couldn't figure out how to win in 5 years? They did, because they got Cale Makar in that draft. Like,
Yeah. Winning builds culture better than anything else. Like, that's what builds culture. Look at the Oilers, like the decade of darkness. Like, you bring in a guy like McDavid and Draisaitl, like, and I did a post on this kind of as a joke, but it's serious. Like, you have dogs on your team, like that's gonna bring culture. Like, and you have a McDavid and a Draisaitl. Like, look at Sidney Crosby, like a guy like that. You bring him into your organization, like he can single-handedly change the outcome of your entire organization, not just because of on-ice play, because he's like one of the best players of all time, but because he just sets that expectation. He's a dog. Like, he just sets that expectation of his teammates, of everyone else from first line to fourth line. Like, that's how you build culture. And like, same thing, like I said, with Florida, that team probably had one of the, if not the worst culture in the entire league. Like, they were a laughing stock for their entire existence. They bring in Tkachuk. Bennett came in there a couple of years before. They bring in a seasoned veteran coach like Paul Maurice, and then look what happens. Their culture completely flips. They go from being like the laughing stock of the league to like the team that everyone wants to be, and everyone talks about as like the most built for the playoffs team, maybe of the salary cap era. Like, and to tell, like you said about the regular season, if you need a signal that the regular season means nothing, the Panthers finished 2 points ahead of the Flames in the regular season. So, like, and look, can you imagine a 7-game series between those teams? It would be over in 4 games, and it would be like 10-0 every game. Like, that just shows you how little, winning in April or winning in February means to culture. Like, do you think Matthew Tkachuk or Paul Maurice or any of those guys care that they lost a Tuesday nighter to Buffalo 6-1, in February, whatever it may be? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it only matters when the games start to matter. Like, he's a bit of a psycho, but like, that's kind of what Daryl Sutter instilled in the Flames in that one season before he went mad. Like that mentality of like, from October to April, it's just a warm up for the good teams. Like, the good teams, that's just a warm up. They're just getting ready for when the games actually start to matter. And there's all this talk about culture in the Flames and fighting down the stretch. Winning 3 in a row in April that's huge for Zary and Coronado and the young guys to get that experience of winning. It's like, those games don't matter. All those wins that they had down the stretch took them from 9th place in the West to 9th place in the West. They didn't change anything. Like, I get you don't want to be a Buffalo, like, or a Chicago right now at the moment, like, just kind of just completely down to the studs, like you're just nothing and you have no soul left, but you can rebuild properly without becoming Buffalo. Like, just every single team that's won the cup in the cap era has at one point been in the bottom of the standings. Like every single team has had a top 5 pick pretty much. Like
Maybe. I don't know. For the non like true tank rebuilds, like what we got? St. Louis. I mean, they had some high picks from before. Vegas, it's obviously its own thing.
Yeah.
Boston is also an interesting one. I mean, I guess Sagan, but that wasn't their pick anyways. So I think those would be like, if you're gonna somehow not rebuild, those are kind of the teams that you're gonna be trying to emulate. Whereas right now, like, and the Flames are gonna have to deal with this because the Sharks, the Ducks, the Blackhawks, there's a lot of these young teams that they might start to turn the corner here. They might not, but I don't know. I think the Ducks might be better than the Flames next year. Maybe the Sharks. I don't know about that defense yet. But
Might be a little too early for the Sharks.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like there are those outlier teams. Like Boston's a perfect example. Like that's kind of going back to the talk of like the Flames have kind of been tied to, they're going to follow the Dallas model because they're not going to have high picks. First of all, that takes a miracle. Like how often do you find players like Robertson, Oettinger,
Jamie Benn?
Yeah, like
Wyatt
all those
Johnson.
guys, Ben, Harley. I know I'm missing some. Like just all these guys, these absolute studs they found late in the first, in the second round. Like Rupins, like that's 1 in a million chance you're going to draft all those guys that late. And 2, Dallas has not won a cup and continually loses when the games matter the most in the conference finals. Like same thing goes for Carolina. That they're kind of a same story of it's like they have Svechnikov, which they just won from the lottery, but like they never in the past few years they haven't really fully bottomed out. It's more been like, whoa, look at all these guys we're stealing in the draft, like, but they get killed in the conference finals when it's time for like the big dogs and the big teams to actually start to play. That's when they get destroyed because they don't have the McDavids, the Kachucks, the Dreisaitl's, like they don't have the Barkovs, like they don't have those guys. So that's why. And then Boston too, like perfect example. Like they never had those high picks, but like they also found Patrice Bergeron, one of the best centers in the history of the league, in the second round. It's like, how often is that going to happen? So for the Flames, like that's kind of your only hope at this point is going that route. But like you have to hit some major draft luck, like to find those guys. Like you have to find Johnny Gaudreau in the 4th round again, but 4 times because that's what you're going to need to be able to actually win a cup. So it's like, and if you're not tanking, then you need to acquire those top 5 picks, like Jack Eichel in Vegas, for example. They couldn't get over the hump. Oh, look, what a surprise. They go and they acquire a former 2nd overall elite center. They win a cup. And then, Florida with Tkachuk was a top 10 pick. Bennett was a top 10 pick. They brought them in. It's kind of St. Louis had Pietrangelo, who was one of their top picks. Ryan O'Reilly was not a top pick, but he was an elite 1C that they brought in. Like, you need to either trade for them or hit some gigantic lottery luck if you're not going to tank. And I just don't have faith the Flames can do that. I think their last draft was really, really good. But am I going to sit here and say that Andrew Basha or Matt Gridden is going to be the next Patrice Bergeron find or the next Ryan Getzlaf, late in the first? No, like let's be real. That's not going to happen. So it's kind of a case where I just don't see. I know I keep saying this, but I just don't see any path forward where, unless you hit unless you hit at 18 and probably 32 this year, and both guys turn into absolute stud forwards, maybe there's a chance they could become a contender. But like at that point of the draft, it's pretty much a coin flip. So you're really, really struggling like to find a way to actually get that elite talent. And even if you do find that talent late in the draft, it hasn't really worked out for Dallas. So that's not exactly a model you can say is a recipe for success. So, yeah.
And it's not exactly a model that you can follow, which is immediately when Conroy said that, last year, like I had some reservations because they won the Heiskanen lottery. I think they were like 8th or 9th, and they moved up to 3. And then they drafted Robertson, Johnston, and Ottinger in the same draft in a COVID draft where players weren't scouted. Like they didn't play, so it was basically just a crapshoot, really. So it's not really a model that you can just follow. Now, him saying Sagan and Ben have really bad contracts and we built a good team around them. Sure, you have the Huberdeau contract. That's like a good analogy to have. Like, you can still have a good team with a bad contract, but just saying like you're going to snap your fingers and suddenly maybe Perek was Heiskanen and that he probably should have gone third overall and fell to ninth, but I don't know how you're getting Wyatt Johnston or Rupe Hintz. And I mean, Wyatt Johnston had a horrendous playoff. He was minus 18.
Rory
And
Cairns has a better points per game. Yeah.
exactly. And
Don't worry. Yeah, Western Conference Finals next year. Cairns is going to have McDavid in his back pocket. Don't even worry.
He's like Bergeron out there. I don't know why you guys.
What am I sitting here saying? We don't have Bergeron. We got Roy Cairns. Come on, guys. Sam
Exactly.
Morton. Oh my God, we're cooking.
If I'm Calgary this year in the draft, I'm taking as many centers as I can. I don't remember who said it in the Flames chat over in the Win Columns chat, but somebody said that we should take 2 centers with our first round picks, and I fully agree with that. If it's a coin flip, if we're saying it's a coin flip getting an elite guy, let's flip that coin 6 times.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, the way I kind of see this year's draft right now is there's kind of like a top 12 or so, and it kind of like between like the next 13 to like 40 or so. It could be in any order. Like, we did our mock draft at the Win column with a whole bunch of writers picking, and I was picking like at 28, and I was still like, I have a choice between Reshny and Coots here. I'm not even getting into like Gastrin and Zonin, who I think is a center, but I think the Flames will have, I know it's like obviously not the pick that you guys want, but you're going to have 2 reasonable choices at those places, especially if you want to prioritize center,
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely a positive. Like, I think they're going to walk away with 2 good players. Their prospects pool, maybe it'll bump them into the top 10 in the league. The problem is, for me, is just like guys like Rejny, Coots, guys you're getting that spot. Their peak is probably like a 2C. That's ideal situation. Like, unless you really hit the lottery. But again, it's like, where are we getting the 1C? Like Rejny or Coots or Gastrin, like, yeah, those guys could be really good 2Cs, and though you could, supplement them with a guy like, Frost or Cairns or whatever, but it's like you need that 1C to really push the pace and actually bring your team to the next step. Like, I don't think, there hasn't been a single team that's won the cup in the past 25 years that didn't have a truly elite 1C. I think the last example would be Anaheim, but they had Getzlaf, who had 58 points. The very next year, he had 82 points. And like, he was, from there on, he's one of the best centers of his era. So it's like, they had him at least kind of waiting in the wings. He was, he wasn't truly there yet when they won the cup, but like the next season, he was a point per game center.
I mean, I'll say, because we were talking about it before, that regular season, maybe he wasn't there, but he led their team in playoff scoring, Getzlaf. Yeah. So
exactly.
I think he was ready when the playoffs started to be that guy,
Yeah, he had that dog in him already. Like, there's dogs and there's not dogs, and he was a dog. Like, he, even though he was still young and he wasn't at his peak yet, like, he was a guy, like you said, he turned it on in the playoffs, and he was a key reason why they won. They also had just an insane roster that year. So like, even if they didn't have that elite 1C, they had Pronger, Niedermeyer, they had Solani, like, just stock full of Hall of Famers. The Flames currently have, I would wager, 0 Hall of Famers on the roster. Probably 0 even Flames Flames forever a Flame people on the roster.
Forever a Flame.
So it's like, either you need the 1C or you need an absolutely loaded roster around them. And right now the Flames have neither. Like I think you can float. Like, I see a lot of people pointing, you have Coronado and Zeri and Gridden and Basha. And yeah, credit where it's due. They have a good cupboard of like young wingers. None of them are elite, which I think you can get by on if you have an elite number 1 center. Like, look at the guys Sidney Crosby played with in his career, like the Pascal Dupuis, the Connor Shearys, like guys who on most teams would be like third, second liners at best. Were putting up a point.
Colby Armstrong.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can kind of
hold Chris Kunitz to an Olympic team.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect, like, if you have a McDavid or a Crosby or whoever, you can kind of plug and play wingers. Look at all the bums McDavid's played with over the years, and like, literally, built their houses for them by getting them paid. Like if you have an Elite 1C, yeah, you can probably contend for a cup with Coronado and whoever as on your first line, because that center is the most important position. But if you don't have that, then it's kind of just, now we just have a bunch of middle six wingers and also a bunch of middle six centers, and we're just kind of existing without anyone to actually pull us through when it matters most. Like you need an elite number one center to win a cup, and the Flames don't have one, and I don't see any clear path to getting one outside of Dustin Wolf, getting injured in game one next year, and then they completely bottom out. Like that's the only realistic way, I think, at this point. You're going to get one.
I was thinking maybe like Rasmus Anderson for Consta Hellenius or something.
Maybe, but that's probably like a 2C at best. I think it's pretty funny that the one draft that's like loaded with centers, I think it's like Schaefer, and then the next, I think Eklund's in there as well, but every other prospect from like 1 to 12 is like a center. And I was like, guys, every single center is available. Like, maybe they get like Coots or Reshny at 18. Maybe they luck into that, but you're probably looking at a 2C at best. And that's basically what the Flames entered their whatever they want to call it, high build now the media is calling it. It's a whole other. But in 2022-23, they had like 3 good forward lines, probably like second to third forward lines. They had a really good defense core, and they had Markstrom, who was either a really good goalie or a really bad goalie. Now you have Dustin Wolf, who's probably an upgrade on Markstrom. We'll see. He's only had 1 season, but he looks like an upgrade. If Parekh and Brustevich hit, you maybe have a better D-core in the future. You probably still need to upgrade that, but at forward, you're going to have exactly what you had coming into this, which like 3 second, third lines, and maybe you get Coots and Bryabkin, and they come in and replace Kadri and Backlund in 3 years, and then you have exactly the same problem. You have 0 first-line players, and you can't win without first-line players. Carolina and Dallas have tried for years, and you could argue if Aho or Hintz or Robertson are a first-line player, and sure, I'll listen to that argument, but I wouldn't call any of those like elite players. And you see every year where they get to like the second or third round and then just get curb stomped by Edmonton or Florida. Like, without picking high, I don't see how you magically pull out a first line. Like, you need an entire first line, which is crazy.
Again, like, unless you're Boston, who finds Pasternak, what was he, like 25th overall? Bergeron was the second round. Marchand was later in the draft at some point.
Third?
Yeah, second or third. Like, that's incredible luck to get in your entire first, like, not just a first line. That was arguably the best line in the league for a couple of years there when they were at their peak. Like, so Boston did it, but it's like that's nearly impossible to replicate. Like, to get that type of draft luck and hit that well on three players who just lead your offense for a decade, pretty much. Like, so it's, yeah. And I think a good example is Montreal, honestly. Like, I think you look at them, they kind of did the same thing where, like, they've got a stable of elite, like they've got, really, really good wingers. Suzuki's a really good center. I think he's like a mid-tier 1C. He's not an elite, but they try to go that route to fill those gaps with like acquiring guys like Doc and Newhook, like those kind of reclamation projects, like, and they just haven't worked. And now they're kind of, you look at Montreal and it's like, man, they're loaded, but they still need a center. And it's like, they're kind of past the point now where they're not going to be able to tank anymore. Like, they're too good to tank, and they don't have, 2 really good centers. Like, I think Suzuki you can argue maybe he's a 1C, like very elite, not elite, but like an average 1C, but you need more than that. And then, so even with Suzuki, like they're still missing it. And the Flames don't have a Suzuki. They don't have anything close to a Suzuki. Like, he's miles better than, no offense to Kadri, but I would take Suzuki obviously over Kadri 10 out of 10 times, regardless of age. Like, so it just shows how hard it is to build a team up the middle. Like, Montreal, I think, did a lot of things right in their rebuild, and they still have a chance to, they drafted Michael Hague, who looks pretty good. They've got
Alan Beck. Can't
Yeah, I
forget
own
about
back. Like they've got and they have a ton of. I mean, they have back-to-back picks in the first round this year, thanks to Brad Treliving. So like they could use those to get a 2C. Whereas Calgary, like they don't even have the starting point. They don't have the Suzuki. They don't have the Michael Hague in the system. You can get the Resnier, the Coots, but where are you getting the Suzuki? Where are you getting your 1C? Like you can't just have 4 number 2 centers and hope to win anything. And that kind of feels like what the Flames are doing right now. Like let's just build a team of all good, not great players, and then maybe we can like win a bunch of playoff games 2-1. And like it's not the Daryl Sutter era anymore. Like that 03-04 run, you're not going to replicate that. It's not about just, that's been a topic now. People are saying, oh, you just need to get in and you can win. Look at Florida. Look at, whoever. It's like Florida isn't a team that gets in and wins. Florida's a team that knows they're absolutely better than 90% of the league, so they just don't care about the regular season. Like they're not a team just because they came what were they, third in the Atlantic Division or whatever? Like still every single person knew they were better than every other team in the Atlantic. It's just like you need to build the best team. It's not about getting in and anything can happen. You need to build the best team and then anything can happen. Like so I think the Flames organization is still very much stuck on that 04 run. Where they think, well, all we have to do is get in and we can replicate that. And obviously, I mean, look at this year's playoffs. Every single wildcard team is out in the first round because they can't stand up. They don't have the level of talent. So you need to build the best team. You don't just need to hope that you can squeak in and then go on a miracle run for a couple of months.
Well, it's fair that some of those like teams that did sneak in or whatever, like Florida when they lost to Vegas, like St. Louis when they won, even going back to like LA the first time they won, it's like, yes, they just snuck in, but they were preseason. It was like, oh, this is going to be a good team. They have a long history of success. They just made a big trade, whether it's like Mike Richards or whatever. It's like people were hyped, for those
exactly
those teams. Yes, they snuck in, but yeah, I think that this coasting during the regular season, the good teams is like really evident these days, especially with the Oilers. Like Hyman has like more hits per game in the playoffs than he does all season. Like it adds a totality. Like, oh, they weren't trying at all. Oh, okay.
Exactly. They weren't trying. And to go back to Josh's point on Montreal, I think that's a good case study to follow because they were in the finals in 2020 or 2021, one of the COVID years, and then they've completed a full bottom out, and now they're back in the playoffs again. Like rebuilds don't have to take 7 or 8 years; they can take 3 or 4 if you do it correctly. And
if you have the culture,
yeah. If you have the right winning culture, I'm sure Montreal really focused on that. But Calgary right now is looking at adding like 22, 23-year-olds. We've heard Byram and Rossi and like Maverick Bork thrown around, all these kind of names. And I think Montreal's a good case study to look at in that adding those players is not always the right way to go because if a team is getting rid of those players at that age, they probably know more than you do. For example, they traded Romanov for pick number 13, and then they flipped pick number 13 for Kirby Dach. Mm-hmm. Now, Chicago used that to take Frank Nazar, and I think they would prefer Nazar to Dach right now, who's plays maybe like 10 games before getting injured every year. Like,
yeah.
Same as Alex Newhook. They traded like a late first and early second for him. Like NHL players, sure, but are they like Montreal's solution at center? No. That's why they're actively looking for an upgrade at center because neither of those guys worked out how they maybe envisioned them to work out. And so maybe you go out and think Rossi's going to be a 70.1C, but if he was playing 4C in Minnesota and Judd Brackett, who is one of the best talent evaluators in the entire league, is in that organization and they're looking to get rid of him, I think that's a major red flag. But again, we'll see if that's the way they go, then I'll sigh and look on. But yeah.
Oh, Rossi's got some jam. I don't know if he's a center, but he's
I like Rossi, but I think he's definitely not this. he's definitely not the savior, and he's not going to fix the
No,
problems. You
no.
need to build through the draft. Like I think if you drafted Michael Meese this year, then I would say, oh yeah, Rossi could be a good complement as a 2C guy, like, you know, and then you've got those two guys working together, but they don't have that. So like Rossi, sure, he could come in, maybe he makes the team better. You know, he'd be some more depth down the middle, but he's not going to change their outcome over the next couple of years. Like he's not that good. Like he'd surely be their best center, arguably, if once Kadri falls off. But like again, you need more than just that. You can't just kind of go out and be like, well, we can just go out and acquire really good centers. Like, well, like you said, really, really good centers are rarely ever available. Like you look at in the 2000s, Jack Eichel and Joe Thornton, probably the two only like elite 1Cs that actually hit the trade market. And we all know the Flames almost had Jack Eichel, just like Brad Treliving almost had every player in the league. But like it's very hard to acquire those players. One, they never come available, and two, when they are, it's virtually impossible to be the winning team in those trade markets. So yeah, like it just seems like they're kind of spinning their wheels. Like you can get a Rossi, you can get a Byram, you can get whoever, and yeah, you're probably a better team than you were last year, but you're still not a contender. You're, instead of finishing in ninth, you probably finish eighth and win one playoff game if you get Marco Rossi. It's like you're not really making a difference here. You need to bottom out, and I just don't think that's going to happen. So I am completely hopeless, and I am expecting, like James said, to just sigh and be depressed for the next 5 years, and maybe by 2030 there's a player that we finally draft who's elite and we finally bottom out. But it's just crazy to think, like, if the Flames were actually bottomed out this year and we're in, like, say they finish second last, whatever, and we're thinking about, wow, they're actually going to take they're going to get Michael Misa, like the amount of hope I would have would be 1 million times higher. It's like, wow, we're actually building something. We're going to get, you know, a high-end 1C. We have Zane Parekh. Like, we can continue to build off this. But this past season, I really think, like, I love Dustin Wolf, but man, I wish he would have just waited a year, because I think this season and finishing where they did has set the team back like 5-6 years. I really believe that. I just think they really screwed them, because they're not going to get that 1C in this draft, which there was plenty available. And I think the organization is just in cuckoo land again and thinks they can sneak in. And this past season kind of convinced them that, wait a second, we don't have to rebuild. So yeah, I think if this season went differently and they actually bottomed out, I would have actually had a ton of hope for the direction of the team. But now I think we're just back to square one, and it feels like the Iginla era again, where it's like Iginla was on an absolute island. I think that's where we're heading with Zane Parekh. I think he's going to come in. He's going to be one of the best defensemen in the league, and he's going to be playing with a bunch of nobodies and losers, and he's going to be the only dog. He's going to be the only dog on the team, just like Iginla was for how many years, just like Gaudreau was for how many years. Like, it's those half-cooked rebuilds, and the Kings are the perfect example. Like, look at the way the Oilers steamrolled them 4 years in a row, because the Kings drafted Byfield. You know, Turcotte missed, but, you know, they had a couple high picks. They got Brant Clark, and then they're like, all right, it's time to win again. Let's trade for Pierre-Luc Dubois. Let's get Philippe Deneau. And now they're just kind of a good, not great team who, when it comes down to it, gets steamrolled by the Oilers, a team that actually bottomed out and got elite talent, because I think the Flames are at their best case scenario at this point is the Kings, and the Kings suck. So like, that's when that's your best case scenario, it just shows, like, if you want to truly contend, you need to replicate what the Oilers, well, not replicate the Decade of Darkness, but like, you need to replicate getting those high-end picks, because the Kings halfway cooked to rebuild. The Oilers actually brought in elite talent, and now look what team is in the finals, and look what team has lost in the first round 4 years in a row. So yeah, I think it's painful to watch where the Oilers are, you know, headed again to the Cup Final. The Flames have made the Cup Final 3 times in their entire existence, and the Oilers have done it in back-to-back years. So that's just a sad reality, and I don't see it changing at any point. And I'm gonna just go 0-30 until the playoffs are over, and just pray that when I turn my phone back on, the Oilers lost, because if they win a cup with McDavid, that would be the ultimate conclusion to the past 3 years as a Flames fan. So I'm just praying that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm kind of more open which sounds it's gonna sound weird, but I'm kind of more open to the Oilers winning the cup this year than I was last year. Last year I was like a diehard Panthers fan. Now I'm like I couldn't care less who wins, and that's not me saying I'm cheering for the Oilers or cheering for the Panthers. I'm literally just like I hope both teams lose. Like
You hope both teams have fun.
I hope they have fun. Yeah.
I hope they don't have fun though. I hope they don't have fun.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I kind of had the same thing, even with the Leafs, like in the Oilers. I'm usually a big time hater of theirs, but I'm just so numb by how terrible the Flames are and the direction we're headed. Like I barely watch the playoffs, and I'm just like, I don't even care. If go win the cup, McDavid, whatever, good for you. Like at least successful organizations that actually do things right win cups. Maybe that will help the Flames understand that they're a joke, but it probably won't. But yeah, it's kind of just like I'm hopeless at this point, so it's whatever. If the Leafs want to go win the cup, good for them. They bottomed out. They have elite talent. The Oilers did the same. So if they do it, I could care less at this point because there's nothing else that can hurt me more than watching the Flames.
At this point, I'm still definitely a Panthers fan. I'm cheering for them to win it for sure. I think they're going to win it, but at the same time, if the Oilers won it this year, at this point, I don't know if I'd care either. I think more or less McDavid's going to win a cup at some point in his career. The chances that he joins Ginla and Thornton as one of the best players to never win a cup, that sounds insane to me. So it's going to happen eventually. Why not it be a year where Calgary's not even involved? So I don't know. I don't know if I'd be too mad about it at this point.
Take that.
That's a fair point. Yeah, the Flames aren't even involved in the playoffs, so whatever happens. Like at this point, I just want to see the Flames not be a joke. Like I don't even care what happens with the other teams anymore. It's just like let's just end this season already. Can we please just like get to the off season? Because man, oh man, I've been dreading these playoffs and they just won't end.
Yeah. Let's get to the point where we trade some more veterans, Conroy, please. I don't want 7 veterans on the team. No rebuilding team has that, but I know that the organization can't say rebuild, so
which is funny. Like I've been thinking about this. Like, isn't Canada the best place to rebuild? Like, the fans are plugged in. Like, people, if they know that you're rebuilding, they can stomach the steps that it takes to get there more easily. Like,
yep.
If I think that, like you were saying, if you guys really aggressively sold off some assets and were picking really high this year, it'd be exciting, even though the team is worse. It's like, but the plan is easier to buy into. So I'm really confused of why Canadian teams seem so like we can never rebuild for more than like 2 or 3 years. Like, what? Why not? Like, you're an institution here.
Yeah, there's always the argument that like the Flames ownership, they don't want to lose revenue from tanking, and then people won't go to their games. But like James said earlier, the Flames attendance is already in the bottom half of the league regardless. Like you've made it to like drafting a guy like Zane Parekh is going to put butts in seats. Like the amount of Parekh jerseys that we're going to sell game 1 in October is going to generate a ton of revenue. People are going to come to watch him play. Like that's how you drive revenue. You rebuild and you bring in exciting players. Like how many people went to the Flames games to watch Johnny Gaudreau? How many people came to watch, Matthew Tkachuk, Sean Monahan? Like that's how you drive revenue, not just by being mid every year. So it's like, and it's, we don't, all this talk about we don't want to be Buffalo. It's like we are Buffalo. The Buffalo has had more playoff success in the Cap era than the Flames. Like the Flames have won less series. They've made it to less conference finals in Buffalo. They have less playoff wins in Buffalo. Like we are Buffalo. Like there's no saying we don't want to be Buffalo. The Flames already are the worst team franchise of the Cap era. So just if you rebuild, you can actually bring in exciting players, drive some excitement around the team, and create revenue. Like that's just the bottom line. So it's like you said, yeah, it's so funny to hear that like we can't rebuild. People will stop coming to our games. It's like people already stopped coming to your games. Like you don't really have anything to lose by actually rebuilding. Like it's just, yeah, like you look at different markets in Canada that have rebuilt, Toronto, Montreal, obviously those are like the meccas of hockey, but still like look how many people come to their games regardless. And now look at all the exciting talent they have that make more people come to their games. And I think We had a post in the win column recently about how the Flames continually being mid is actually going to really impact the future of the organization in terms of their fan base. Like how many young kids in Calgary are growing up watching the team right now. And, that 04 run, like that's when I became a fan. When I was a kid, I just started watching hockey and I saw that. I saw Ginla and I saw them go on that run. Like how many fans did that bring in that then, fueled a generation of Flames hockey, like because of that run? Like that's how you bring in fans. So this commitment to being mid and just trying to sneak in is really damaging the organization long term, because I think a lot of people are going to grow up in Calgary and kids are going to grow up and be like, why would I become a fan of this team? Like they're never in the playoffs, and when they are, they're out in the first round. Like just you need that excitement, you need those exciting players, and I think it's really, really just damaging the overall organization long term, because an era of Flames fans are going to be lost because you're just continually trotting out garbage product to them, and they're going to go become Edmonton fans. Like I'm sure there's so many kids in Calgary who live in Calgary who are Edmonton fans right now because of McDavid and Draisaitl and how successful they are, because they're an exciting team to watch, whereas the Flames are just continually mid and are really drowning out any chance of bringing in new fans, because if you're a kid, why the hell would you want to cheer for the Flames? So yeah,
I mean, being mediocre just isn't interesting. You know where you're going to be at the end of every year, right? It's either out in the first round or 16th pick. I've always enjoyed watching teams that are not good, sitting like 28th, 29th, but at least you get those flashes from the young players, right? That's what makes it entertaining for me. I maybe I'm alone in that, but I feel like I'd be tuning into more games if the Flames sold a ton of players, sold off all their vets, and just bottomed out next year. I'd probably watch more games than what we're probably gonna get.
You have something to look forward to. Like the Sharks
Exactly.
The Sharks were absolutely horrendous this year. They're still way more exciting to watch because you have Will Smith and Macklin Telebrini and like exciting Sam Dickinson on the way. And this year, another Schaefer, Higgins, Misa, whatever. Like you have excitement around the team and a reason to watch them and a reason to be excited for the next season, which the Flames just don't have, because at this point it looks like they're probably essentially going to run it back. Like, but maybe Anderson's gone, but that's about it. So why would anyone get excited about next season? It's like it's just going to be the same roster, the same team. They're probably going to be right around 500 all year, and then this time next year we're going to be picking 17th again. So it's like and that's not putting butts in seats. Like you're already drowning revenue, you're losing revenue because of how boring your product is. So maybe committing to something and actually picking a lane is the biggest thing, I would say. Like that's kind of been the issue with the Flames. Like pick a lane. Are you going for it? Then go, like just blow all your money in free agency. At least give us something to talk about. But like I'd rather that than just continue to sit on the fence. Like at least if you go out and give Sam Bennett $10 million, it's idiotic, but it's whatever. It's exciting and you can talk about it and just, wow, this is crazy. And then, in a couple of years we can rebuild. But just kind of sitting on the fence, not doing anything, which is the direction they're going, is just, there's no reason to tune in or be excited, because it's just going to be the same old product and they're just going to be eternally mid and there's no reason to watch. And it's just the same boring team coached by a boring coach who has the personality of plain bread, whose team plays not to lose instead of playing to win. And it's just, I hate it. I'll just leave it at that.
I couldn't agree more. I think like you just need to do something. You need to take a risk. I think this offseason more than anything else, whether that's selling a bunch of stuff off or heck, if the goal is we want to put butts in seats, go sign someone big. Just something exciting. Give me something to write about, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. I take anything at this point. Like absolutely they should be selling off and tanking. That's 100% the right call, but if they don't want to do that, which it seems like they don't, at least do something. Like make a huge blockbuster deal, or like do something interesting. Like, because man, oh man, it is difficult to find things to be excited about when you're just kind of staying the course, which is the path to 16th place every year.
Yeah, I'll leave it with this. I think a good organization either sells the current team being able to win or a future team being able to win. And I don't think the Flames are doing either right now. I don't have faith that either the current team or the future could win. So
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
That's the biggest issue. There's no hope for this team or the future. All right. I think you've all listened to us rant about the Flames enough. We'll be back on your airwaves soon with another off-season episode once the playoffs mercifully come to an end. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow on your platform of choice, and we'll see you in the next one.